Hello people, today I'm going to be doing a review for The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. I don't know why it's necessarily called the Devil Made Me Do It, like I get it for the story, but why just call it The Conjuring 3. But anyways, this is the first film not directed by James Wan. The first two were directed by James Wan, and the first two were both incredible. I love the first one, and I don't love the second one as much as I do the first, but I still really like the second movie. Yeah, so this movie was directed by Michael Chavez, and he's the director of The Curse of La Llorona, which I have still yet to see. I do need to check out, but I haven't heard the most amazing things about that movie. So I was a little concerned going into this movie, knowing that James Wan wasn't directing this time around. And I will say, it is better than what I thought it was going to be going into it. Is it as good as the first two? No. It's miles away from as good as the first two. Overall, I was going to say, I think this movie is just average. It's not, anything to go, oh, this is the Conjuring movie. And necessarily, do I recommend it? If you're a fan of the franchise, is the only way I really can recommend this movie, because overall, this movie really just felt, sadly, like more of the same. And I really don't understand, well, I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but I really wish, here was what I just wanted to happen. James Wan direct the third Conjuring and the franchise, leave it at that. Because it really, the reason why this movie wasn't better is just because simply, I think, James Wan. Because it's such a great concept. And he knows, and he, of course, this is a story, but it wasn't written by him. The delivery of this idea and the story just could have been so much better. The way they decided to do it is basically to have, especially with the third act is probably the most disappointing part of the movie, because they go two separate storylines. We have a scene with an exorcism in a hospital or whatever, and we have a scene with Patrick Wilson and, I'm going to try to say her name, Vera Farmiga, just kind of being scared by this witch. And it just really didn't, they really didn't feel like there was necessarily a driving point. I was just like kind of watching it. It was fun. It did have okay scares. Nothing compared to the first two when it comes to scares. And there was only, when it comes to scares or creepy imagery, there's only one scene that really got me, and it's a scene in the hospital, and you know what I mean once you're watching the movie. The scene in the hospital is the only thing that kind of gave me like spine chills, well, minus the credits. The credits of the Conjuring movies, especially the second one and this one, always perfectly manages to send that last chill down your spine. Like I said, but this Conjuring movie is what really keeps it above the others, is that it has a beating heart of the story. That has a lot to do with Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. They really just carry this franchise. This movie right here is what I think of the Conjuring universe. When Patrick Wilson and Farmiga, what's-her-face is going to be on screen, they're great. But once they're not in the limelight, it's just, because there is such a great idea here, and the court case of this guy, and it's saved for the last couple minutes of the movie. It would have been really interesting to deliver a court case drama with it's creepy stuff happening, and it doesn't necessarily deliver on that. It goes the investigation route, and I wanted more of a monster house feel like the first two had, and that this movie just didn't really capture that at all. The biggest disappointment is what they do with the antagonist. The first movie had this really terrifying, just witch-like, and especially within the third act, and she has like, her face is completely terrifying. And the second one had the nun, and she was terrifying in that movie, and her movie didn't necessarily work out that well. But the one in this movie was just basically a random girl and just kind of running around and scaring people. It really, I wasn't impressed visually with her, and her scares just was like, okay. Nothing really of hers scared me. The morgue scene, or the funeral home, is and you see a monster show up there. He's actually the one that scared me the most over the main antagonist of the movie. And it really sadly feels like this franchise is really starting to beat a dead horse. It just feels like, okay, it's time to wrap it up. This should have been the last one. It should have been directed by James Wan. And this movie feels like a should have been. And it just didn't necessarily deliver what I wanted it to do. But another standout of this movie was the opening scene. And I knew that going into this, I knew the opening scene was on a whole other level compared to the other movies. So it's not like I was like, oh yeah, this opening scene's great, then disappointed by the rest. I knew that the opening scene was going to be the highlight of it, because the opening scene was the highlight of it. It had some of the best imagery, and it was just, if the opening scene was a movie with itself, it's like an 8 out of 10. It really is. So yeah, that's my review for The Conjuring and the Devil Made Me Do It. It's fine. It really is. It has okay scares. Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga really carry it. The heart of the story is there. The investigation route isn't necessarily interesting, but at least you get to see the characters that you like doing it rather than like an Annabelle Comes Home. They show up at the beginning and at the end to deliver exposition or something. So yeah, I want to give The Conjuring The Devil Made Me Do It a 5.9 out of 10. I really wanted to like this movie more, but sadly, I didn't. So yeah, anyways, like, share, subscribe, and stuff like that, and adios.